my first question would be to all the panelists. I'll just come to you one by one. Like looking at the budget and looking at the announcements, and it has actually put an emphasis on growth, resilience, and sustainability when it comes to agriculture. What are the two top interventions the government actually must prioritize to genuinely future-proof Indian agriculture against problems like climate risk, income volatility, and global shocks? Coming to Mr. Agarwal, Rajesh Agarwal first.
Yeah, I think the vision is correct and the execution is the key task, what is in front of the government, because the best part is that government has started talking that without the growth in agriculture, it is very difficult to achieve the economic targets of the country. So सबका साथ सबका विकास जो चीजें जो नारे इनको इन्होंने बोले हैं, so they look very attractive. So where should be the focus? So AI is something which is already discussed, talked. So AI can benefit the farmers in many ways because they can understand what is the climatic situation, what are the infestations which their crop might have after a while. Because what is happening in our country, that using a medicine, people take it as a taboo. They try to avoid as much as possible. And what happens in this is that the disease become bigger. So if there is a pest infestation on the crop, or there is a weed infestation, weed means unwanted plants are grown or disease. So they avoid using the medicine to a stage where the problem becomes big. And then to kill the bigger problem, you have to use more. People don't understand that. So with the AI intervention, I believe when they will be pre-informed and they know, yes, in their village or in their area, these diseases attacks are going to come. So farmer might like to understand that situation, and there can be a common consensus to that, and sometimes it can change the habit of the people. So a wonderful move. Then when they talk about the plantations, so many plantations. So all these plantations are precision agriculture, or I would say value added agriculture, where the profitability can be increased for the farmer. So thinking about increasing the profitability from of the farmer and moving him from the regular crop cycles, because in our country people generally go for rice cotton or rice wheat movement. So they are sowing rice in the Kharif season and wheat in the Rabi season, or rice cycle. So all these cycle, they increase the capacity of these crops in our country more than our demand. So we have ample of food available in form of rice. And then we see that are they doing horticulture? Are they, though the horticulture production in our country has increased like anything, because it is the income generating solution for the farmer, but it is precise agriculture. The risk is more, the expenses are more. And the result is going to come little late sometimes if it is not the vegetable farming, because if it is fruit trees or any trees, what trees we are talking about today, FMS talked, I don't want to repeat that, but all those are long return crops. So the risk become higher. So people avoid. But if the government is going to do the focus and it runs some incentive schemes with that, then yes, we can convert the farmer. So good move, I would appreciate.
Thank you so much, Mr. Karale. And I, with that, move towards Mr. Avinash Karale with the same question. What do you think will be the top two interventions on which the government must prioritize? Sir, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
agriculture, as we have seen, right, agriculture currently, I would the point I would like to point out is agriculture currently uses 80% of India's fresh water. And if Mr. Rajesh Agrawal talked about intervention of AI and pesticide. So similarly, the mechanization can be introduced at at a level, at a grassroots level, and the mechanization has a challenge. How to, for like a company like us, the current challenge we are facing is how to make our robotics affordable for farmers, as the land holding in India, if you see, it's not more than 2 to 3 acres per head, right? So for making the technology and make it affordable for people, for farmer, that is a challenge every startup is facing right now. So the schemes can be introduced for the farmers, which are subsidies, providing subsidies, and for companies such as production incentive linked, right? Currently, the we have seen that in a EV sector, automotive EV sector, the government have given a huge push for EV, and in a current budget, electronic manufacturing is getting that push. So something like that for mechanization in agriculture requires a PLI scheme, I would say.
That's amazing, Mr. Karale, and thank you so much for your words. Coming to Mr. Amit Agarwal now with the same question. What, in your opinion, are the two moves that the government must prioritize?
So overall, this is a very progressive budget for Indian agriculture. The push for AI tool through Bharat Vistar that FM has announced, it's a very welcoming move from government side, because it's a clear intention that government you want to use AI in farm sector. And that is why, they have launched this. Previously, they have launched AgriStack, which was very hugely successful. Now, over on the top layer is a AI tool which will give the farmer multilingual option. So I think a lot of startup will create this tool, and government will use for farmers. So that's a 100% it is a very beneficial for farmers. And second is a database financing. I would say it's a recommendation. Farmer doesn't get financing in a full sense, proper sense. If farmer is growing is having 100-acre farms, and they want to take a loan at 9%, it's very difficult for them to take loan easily. So I think financing is the one thing where government can do better for providing credit linkages from the banks or NBFCs to the farmers. We have banks where they come under priority sector guidelines. They need to disperse loan in the agriculture sector to complete their targets. Similarly, NBFCs also recognize by government those who are lending in agriculture sector. Yeah, so they get cheaper rates from banks when they take money from banks, and when they lend, so they also can give the same benefit to the farmers. So there are two areas. One is a technology, data-driven, decision, and in farming, and second is financing. There are two things which government should do.
Definitely. And now coming, in fact, with the same question to Mr. Soumyak Biswas, you as a policy analyst, and you've been looking at, with a different view on the budget and on the agriculture sector as well. What is your opinion on what two things should the government actually, emphasize on?
So thanks, Tarannum, for having me on this panel. So I think, as the other panelists also mentioned, so this budget definitely is a very welcome one, given the recent initiatives which the government has taken over the last few budgets as well. So one thing, what the FM clearly announced, particularly on the Bharat Vistar program, right? So I think that can be embedded to drive more around the climate resilient agriculture, because that's the need of the hour, right? Because there are too much of the weather extremes on one side, water scarcity is another big area, right? And a lot of the farmers still struggle, right? So while we have done a lot of pilots, right, in patches across different parts of the country, or different state governments have done, but it's a high time we scale up these practices across the country, right? Because this is the need of the hour. So that's definitely one. So the main whole objective is not to produce more, but how you can actually produce it in a much smarter way, right? So that whatever we call it, that produce more crop per drop, I think that should not be just as, I think, a catchy phrase. I think we should actually be an economic compulsion, right? So that's basically the need of the hour. Second thing, what I felt that the budget has very correctly done, that while of course the financial assistance or in the subsidies, they typically had been the what we typically look out for in all budgets, but this budget has actually paved in some kind of the long-term structural measures, right? Particularly in terms of capex-based funding or the viability gap funding, which actually creates some kind of the resilient infrastructure, because a lot of the farmers actually face a lot of, I think, challenges in actually selling their product or distress selling, which have a cascading impact on the prices. And the last part, what I want to mention is actually the crop diversification, particularly focusing on the high value crops, right? So these are the, I think, couple of the areas, I think, which this budget has clearly laid out. And of course, the next focus area would be how effectively we can implement that.
That's a very valid point. In fact, the focus area would be how effectively can this be, implemented. So now coming to the next question to Mr. Amit Agarwal. Mr. Agarwal, what do you think would be the specific budget measures that can actually accelerate post-harvest infrastructure, whether it's warehousing, grading, and market linkages, to actually reduce farm distress and also stabilize farmer incomes beyond the MSP dependence?
Yeah, so post-harvest, today the problem is, in our, there should be, reform in selling the crop. When farmer grows the crop, he has to sell in the mandis. So there should be, complete freedom by the, government Farmer can sell the crop to anywhere, to any processing plant, or any dal mill, or anywhere. Yeah. So there should not be compulsion that he has to go to mandis and he has to sell. So there should be a previously government has a program called ENAM. So they have an app call where farmer can come and it can uh, just put his crop details, and he can get the bids from the buyers. So this such kind of scheme should be promoted by the government, central government and state government as well, and private sector also be participate in such kind of intervention. So that digital mandi is a need of where farmer can sell their crop digitally. If farmer is not able to get good price, so he can just deposit the crop in the warehouse and can get the warehouse receipt based financing through banks. So the government intervention should be farmer should behave like a trader. So he should not sell the crop after immediate harvest. So if he sell, then he is not able to make profits. So our motive is to enhance his profitability by educating him for commerce, how to sell in a better way, and second is how to increase his productivity.
Amazing. In fact, yes, coming to Mr. Karale now, Mr. Avinash Karale. As someone from the agri robotics and automation side, what fiscal incentives or policy support in the budget could actually drive large scale adoption of precision farming amongst the small and marginal farmers?
Okay, so government have tried this, setting custom hiring centers at multiple levels. So those custom hiring center needs to be exempted for buying the machineries. They can government can certainly give them interest incentives or interest subvention as well. The custom hiring center can allow farmers to hire multiple technologies for their use. As you know, as you have mentioned, the India's land holding is less. So to make the technology affordable through custom hiring center, that can be done. And the Indian farms are barely mechanized, as if you compare to the global level, US or even Brazil. The farms mechanization have reached at 90, 95, 98%, and Indians farms are barely mechanized at 30%. And in the name of mechanization, we have seen only the revolution in owning the tractor. The implements, the new age technology haven't reached to the farmers. So though that's where the custom hiring centers can play a major role, and government can definitely put some incentives on custom hiring centers.
Thank you so much, Mr. In fact, I would just like to welcome one of our panelists who's just joined in, Mr. Manoj Dabas, Country Director, India, CIFOR and ICRAF. Welcome, Mr. Dabas. If you can just switch on your camera.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry for joining late. I was, stuck in some place where I could not extract myself, so I apologize for my late joining. Thank you.
No worries, sir. Just quickly getting into the question with you now. You must have seen the budget, and there's a lot of focus on agriculture with different schemes and everything. How do you think that the budget 2026 can better integrate agroforestry and climate resilient land use models into mainstream farm policy while ensuring both ecological and income benefit for the farmers?
Well, I think agriculture sector of India is already, very much integrated with agroforestry. The question is that, the level of that integration is not as good as it should be. Just to give you a bit of statistic, Indian farmers already produce roughly about 75% of the wood that the country needs for industrial purposes. But the opportunity that we lose is that today we produce 75% of what we need and import 25%. But the size of the opportunity is that we can actually should be providing the rest of the world 25% of its wood needs. So the question is of realizing the full potential of agroforestry in India, which has not been done primarily because what Indian farmers have done it suo moto in response to market mechanisms and market forces because of shortage of wood in India. But the level of promotion that agroforestry requires has not come through from various agencies and through the government as such, because agroforestry somehow falls between the cracks between forestry and agriculture. And it is high time that the agriculture sector espouses the cause of tree farming, with full gusto, and that will not only make the agriculture more climate resilient, because the first thing a tree does is to bring the temperature down, on the ground by by the partial shade effect that it generates. And secondly, it all gives an alternative source of income to the farmer, because tree does not compel a farmer to harvest itself on a given date. A tree can be harvested now, it can be harvested even next year. It all depends what the market forces are. So integrating, this market based decision making and promotion of tree farming onto agriculture fields, like we did for agriculture crops in 1960s, when India was facing chronic and very serious food shortages. In the last 60 years, we have reversed our position in case of food grains by being a deficient country to a surplus country. On the other hand, in case of wood and tree-based products, we have moved from surplus or sufficiency to gross shortage. So idea is that of promotion. The farmer already knows what agroforestry is, what he or she can grow. The only thing is the impetus that needs to come from the government has not come through. This budget, the finance minister has made a good beginning.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, now coming to Mr. Rajesh Agarwal. So, Mr. Agarwal, what budget reforms do you think are still needed to balance crop protection innovation with sustainability, particularly when we are talking about promoting safer chemistries, biosolutions, and regulatory clarity for the industry?
So, what is happening is that we want the latest products and we want the innovation on ground. But is there any encouragement from the government for the innovation? If I'm bringing the innovative product, I'm not getting any priority in registration. The R&D spent, it is not getting any advantage. It is being treated like any other expense. I'm not like in the past, there used to be 200% claim of the expenses, whatever you are making in R&D. I believe that rather from innovation, government should create an infrastructure for every agri input so that the industrialists are competing to do the inventions, to do the latest things, doing the things for the first time in the country for the farmers of the country. Why we are not able to make that type of investments? We have to think, because the infrastructure is not supporting. And at the same time, I also believe that this work has to go along with the government infrastructure. The government is spending a lot on the agriculture department, so these departments have to come forward and support the industry, and there has to be certain level of trust which has to develop between the industry and the things. So I believe if the R&D is encouraged, then definitely from the industry side there will be a lot of development, and for the farmer also there is a pain area. What happens is, it is Asia where we are sowing a lot of rice, because government has fixed the price for the rice and farmer knows that after the season he is going to get certain amount of money, and which is a short type of crops. These days a lot of push has happened to pulses and corn crops, and across country the acreage is increasing like anything, and it is becoming a good fortune for the farmer across the country, and these are the crops which don't consume as much water as rice. So this water problem can be addressed if more corn, more pulses are used. This problem of parali can be solved. Cotton somehow decreased, particularly in North India and across the country also, which is again a dry crop. Because if we talk about rice, rice is generally meant for delta areas. But the farmer across the country likes to sow rice because he thinks sometimes that he has no other option. It's a short thing, which is so. Some investment on processing, food processing, warehousing, it needs to be increased, and there has to be some value addition so that the things which farmer, if he sows some exotic crops, even the plantation, like if he's doing the plantation, it's a 10-year crop. Then for 10 years, what are the returns? Is he getting the insurance at nominal prices? Is he getting some loans, interest-free loans or something from the government every year, that okay, in 10 years your trees are going to fail. At that time you can repay the loan. But if you had done other crop, you are earning say 1.5 lakh or 1 lakh per acre in 2 or 3 crops during the year. So at least to maintain his family, he is getting some support. So all these questions are very, very important. And without government support, this change cannot come. And if this type of thought has already entered into the mind of the PM and the finance minister, I believe that the things should be positive and that should go ahead, and there should be development, sustainable development in the sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Here,
Agarwal,
I
for that.
would like to request, I have to join something else, so I would like to
Sure.
take a leave. Thank you very much for
Thank you so
having.
much, sir, for joining. Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah. So in fact, we just have like last 5 minutes, and I'm just quickly getting into the last question with Mr. Biswas. Mr. Biswas, in fact, you are a like analyst in the sector, and when you look at what the announcements and also at the sector overall, what do you see have been the biggest funding gaps across the agri value chain so far? And how can this budget 2026 crowd in private capital while improving returns for farmers and also for agri enterprises?
So it's a good question, Tarannum. So from a valuation, when you look at from a valuation perspective, the capital constraints for what we see basically necessarily don't lie in the primary production aspect, right? It typically actually is more concentrated or acutely felt beyond the farm gate. So if you have to call out the top three areas there, I think the first one will be on the post-harvest infrastructure, like the storage infrastructure, cold chains, grading, pack houses. So all these are massively underinvested, right? And this leads to a lot of wastage and which has impact on the prices and the margin leakages, right? So this is one area which needs investment. The second important aspect is around the midstream processing, right, and the value addition. You will see a lot of stakeholders in this particular segment will be the MSMEs, right, and the regional players. Now they need a lot of long-term capital and the risk-sharing mechanism. And unfortunately, many of this traditional banking system or even the NBFCs do not give a very conducive environment, particularly to meet that kind of a support. So this is one area which needs to be looked at. And the third area, I think it's a very critical area, is the aggregation platform. If you take, for example, the APOs, right? I think they are a very important vehicle which actually links the producer with the markets, right? So what the major constraint is on the balance sheet strength of the APOs and the governance issues, not the access to the working capital. So these are the three primary areas which we feel need significant investment, right? If we have to develop from a value chain perspective. Now, in terms of what the government can do it, and actually this budget actually has spelled out a couple of areas. One is basically that we need to now urgently scale up some of the blended finance and the risk sharing mechanism, right? Initially, there has to be some public capital which has to be invested because currently, where the banks and the NBFCs are struggling because they don't have the borrower's profile, there is a lot of uncertainty about the cash flows because of the weather uncertainties, right? So obviously they have an hesitance to actually lend to an individual borrower. So if there is a public capital which initially comes in, that automatically can pull some of these assets, and that automatically actually improves the credit rating of those kind of the assets. So and it will not only improve the further lending or the crowding in by the public and the private players, but it will also increase the pool of the lenders, right? So not only the insurance providers will come, a lot of mutual funds will take interest, the AIFs will come into the picture, pension funds will come. So I think that is definitely the need of the hour. Second, another important step which the budget has done is the reallocation of the incentives. So I think we have moved from the inputs to the infra, right? So there are basically the capex linked incentives, the viability gap fundings, which definitely is going to improve, I feel, the viability of the assets and in a cascading effect on the impact of it will have on the prices the farmers realize. And the third important aspect, I think we need to learn from what China did in the late 1970s and 80s. They also had a similar kind of the structure like we had. It is used to be dominated by the smallholder farmers, which India also has. So they moved, actually, they created the rural enterprises, right? So I think a classic example will be if we can empower these FPOs, right? The government runs a scheme of this 10,000 FPOs. Even if we can actually create some kind of the rural enterprises out of that, that will unleash a lot of the wave. So we can create some kind of the equity or the quasi-equity kind of the instruments, which will not only give them this balance sheet strength, but at the same point in time, that will also help in value addition, creating jobs, exports, and that will obviously make the contribution from this sector to the GDP go manifold higher. So I think these are some of the initiatives, and of course, what the government can do, because today the finance minister has announced of the She-Mart, learning from the experiences of the Lakpati Didi program. So if we can also drive convergence with the schemes which the Ministry of Rural Development runs, the Ministry of Food Processing runs, I think we can unleash a lot of the capital, particularly from this segment. Right. So these are in short some of the recommendations which we feel can be handy.
Our panelists, ranging across the agriculture sector, have been able to not just dissect what those announcements were, but also gave a very different and a very market-oriented perspective to the entire thing on how these announcements will actually help the farmers, help the agriculture sector in the country, but also what is still left out and what actually needs to be done when it comes to the ground. And with that perspective, we wrap up today's discussion on what the Union Budget 2026 really means for the Indian agriculture, its farmers, and the road ahead. Thank you so much to all the panelists.